Hey, hey, hey! Jess, I am back to back videos, because the more videos I do behind each other, the more of my mind is emptied out by the fog that I actually build with the opinions that I create, and opinions are forms of judgment. But again, uh, it really is a form of clearing the surface. The best way I could describe it is like when you're pasteurizing milk, you have to clear the foam at the top to get the actual good stuff. Or when you're making cream, I guess. Okay. Today's video is cancel the thoughts come. What the fuck? I can't read. The thoughts come from observing of things. Cancelled? No, concealed. Cancelled. The thoughts come from observing of things. Come from our judgment. I'm gonna pause this and then basically understand what the fuck I wrote. Just in case, this is what I wrote. See, that's what the part here is where I'm having an issue with. So pause, I'll see you in a second. All right, so I have deciphered. I know, I've been gone for like 20 minutes, by the way. I've been Googling some shit. But I think what I meant to say was connected. The thoughts come from our observing of things, which come from our judgments. That makes the most sense for me. It really clicked when I removed the first word, which kind of didn't make sense, because it had an L-looking shape. But the thoughts come from our observing of things, which in turn comes from our judgments. What I'm pointing out here is basically that I think the ego in us, or the identity in us, I'm going to go back to the assumption part, which is also like a judgment in some way, or in a very big way. But our thoughts are really, if you were to discern the difference between a clear mind and a mind full of thoughts, not ideas, thoughts. Alan Watts talks about it beautifully. He goes like a man who's man being gender neutral. A man who's thinking all the time has nothing to think about but thoughts. And I think I've made a strong kind of argument towards the triggers of life and how everything in life kind of triggers us to see things a certain kind of way. And maybe we mistake that for observation, because how we look at things versus how things actually are. And we always look at things from a lens that's basically our predisposition. How we have actively just engaged with ourselves for a certain period of time that allows us to be comfortable or confident in seeing things a certain kind of way. And so I'm rolling a cigarette, by the way, just in case people are, what's he doing with his hands? So they're connected because the thoughts come from our observing of things. But the connection is the fact that those are our judgments. And what effectively we're doing is we're forming a judgment on something. And then we're seeing something and we're forming a judgment on it. I think the difference between us seeing something or observing something, I think the observation part is like a third person standing, like I'm not involved. But when you see something, maybe it's the grammatically, you see, you observe as well. but you see something through your own lens, right? When you're observing something, you're allowing it to exist and you're looking at how it exists. I think seeing is a lot more personal, maybe. And that's why it comes with a hint of our, like our flavor. And when I say our flavor, it's not I, it's me, right? Identity that exists in this world, or that is expressing itself in this world, kind of gives like a hint of bias, whether we choose to accept it or not. So the thoughts that come from our observing of things, also come from our judgments. And I think that's perfect because once you're observing something, you don't really have thoughts about it. You're just observing. But if you actually have thoughts coming from it, then you are genuinely introducing judgment into the equation. It's a really fun way to unlock a part of your brain because that creates a bit of distance between me and the identity that like decides on how things look like. Because to truly be able to allow things to be the way they are is like, again, like I'm looking at a chair right now. The first thing I think about is a chair is to sit. But is that truly just seeing the chair or seeing the purpose of the chair? The same with the table, the same with a piece of stone. And it's funny because now I think about it, like I have friends that think their children serve a purpose for them instead of like just the fact that they exist in life and they're supposed to kind of like be around them and kind of connect their own purpose to the other people around them, right? That's definitely something that all of us can relate to. So are we truly observing when we see things? Shit, we can't observe when we see things. I just kind of like separated the wording. Are we ever truly observing when we see things? Now I'm thinking of looking. Three different fucking words. For some reason, all three of them exist. And we use them kind of like as if like that's perfectly like okay to observe something and see it and look at it. It's the same. I think looking is more of an act. Seeing something is more of a noticing slash exploring, whilst observing is just kind of like taking a step back and like allowing it to exist within the realm of your eyesight. So to look at something, see, you can look for something, but you can't see for something. You can observe for something, but that's basically an anticipation or an expectation. I'm observing this area for something to show up. I'm looking at this area for something to show up. Yeah, so looking is directly coming from you. Seeing is basically how something reveals itself through you to you. And really, observing is the only neutral thing I can look at. I can look at. Funny, right? Yeah. Observing is the only, like, I can look at observing in the most neutral way as a word. I just created a different dimension where I'm looking at a word that kind of like defines a state of, I don't know, the action is still to kind of like have your eyes pointed at something. Or is observation a bit more broad when it comes to this stuff? Cats are fighting, I don't know why. It's fine. They're a married couple. We all go through that. So let's recap. The thoughts come from observing, from our observing of things. But here I discovered that we're not truly observing if whatever we're observing gives us thoughts. If we're seeing something or looking at something, we get thoughts because that activity of looking or seeing is coming with a predisposed judgment that we already have. It is not really showing us the thing, it is showing us what we see in the thing in front of us. So, anytime you have thoughts from something, maybe it's a good time for us to kind of like, I'm probably going to start doing that from today, man, whether automatically or just like rationally. Just kind of realize the things that I actually like think about and the essence of my original judgment towards them that allowed them to explore themselves through me. And maybe there'll be a better way for me to reobserve that point of origin or the object of origin that triggers and in a way kind of like dissipates these thoughts that come with it because their thoughts really are pointless. But ideas come from just like everything coming together. And again, it all comes down to your values and principles and what you want out of life. And that's why I trust my ideas. And that's why I trust the things that kind of like come, not really like the thoughts that run around in my head. It's a video